Good afternoon, Honourable Prime Minister Tony Frederick, Win FM. In speaking to Dr. Timothy Harris yesterday, he made it very clear that he and Mr. Conda remain on the government side, on the back benches. And I notice you say that in their affixing their signature to this letter to the Governor General, they no longer support you as the Prime Minister, that this is effectively an indication that they are not on the government side and that they're with, well, I assume when you say Pam, you mean the opposition side. Are you saying that you are kicking them out of the Labour Party and off the government benches? Because according to Dr. Harris, they're still on the government side.
Well, I think Harris can say anything that he feels like, because Harris is aware of the strength of the Labour Party. And so he continues to hold on to the strings of the Labour Party for him to be relevant in the politics of St. Kitts and Nevis. I mean, if Harris thinks that he is independent, as he has been saying to people in his constituency during his house-to-house campaign, and that he will be an independent candidate, why then does he continue to sit on the government side, which is the Labour Party? And signing a letter like that yesterday, as I said, there's nothing new in that letter. Harris voted against the government side only recently. Harris has spoken out clearly against the government in recent times. So this is nothing new. What I think, however, the letter indicates is that he has put it in writing that we are no longer with the Labour government. We are with PAM. It's very, very clear. Very, very clear. Because, again, they are reiterating that if the motion or any other bill was to come to the Parliament, they will vote with the opposition, with PAM, against the Labour government, the Labour Party government that placed them in Parliament. The very same people who are Labour supporters, who voted for them in the last election and placed them in Parliament. They are now saying that when they are in Parliament, they don't need Labour anymore. They don't need the party and its support. Who placed them there? They don't need that support anymore. That's what they're saying to the world. That's what I interpret that to be. How do you interpret it?
I'm only just report what people say, so I don't make interpretations.
I see.
I have a couple more questions. I'll just ask them all at once. In regards to the motion of no confidence, you've indicated that nowhere is it written how long it ought to be or how much
there's no law.
There's no law about how long it ought to be or how much time can or cannot pass if there's a minimum maximum time in regards to the tabling of a motion of no confidence. With that said, it is convention across the Commonwealth certainly that it is something that is seen to be a matter of urgency, and we're now going on about 3 months. So a couple of things. Do you feel, and granted ultimately it is up to the Speaker, do you feel any obligation as the leader of the country and the Prime Minister of the country to give the Speaker any advice or suggest to him, look, this ought really to be given a priority? I know earlier, initially you had said, look, I'm not the one who wrote it. I remember you said that one day on your program. Is that still your position, or do you feel in any way obligated to say to the Speaker, you know what, let's just get this thing over with? That's one question. The other is, or do you want to answer as we go along?
Let me answer, because...
Yeah, no, and I like the engagement. I'll be honest, I like the engagement. Go ahead.
I stand to my words that I made in December, that the budget is of extreme importance, just as important as the motion of no confidence. And the budget is urgent, just as the motion of no confidence is urgent. And if for any reason the Speaker would want to forget that, I would remind him that the motion of no confidence is urgent. And I would remind him to make sure that it is not forgotten. But I think at the moment, we are all of one mind, and I'm sure it's also of your mind, that the budget is urgent. The budget is urgent, and we would be very irresponsible if we allowed a motion of no confidence to come and the government, for whatever reason, is no more, and there is no money legally authorized to even conduct an election, which is what some people seem to want. I can't be that irresponsible. So I have to do what is the responsible thing.
So it's taken 3 months to tweak the language.
I don't count the days and months. I don't. I count when the system is ready to bring the budget.
A couple more questions. Given that the Prime Minister is chosen following an election as the person who the Governor General determines has the greatest amount of support from among the elected members of the National Assembly, and that is how, initially anyway, a Prime Minister is chosen. Given that at this stage, with this letter to the Governor General yesterday, 6 of the 11 elected members have now said, look, this is not where the support lies anymore with you. While I understand Constitution, of course, you're still the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. Are you comfortable that you have the mandate to continue to bring legislation to the House, to continue with the budget? You talked recently of other important pieces of legislation that you still have in mind to table integrity in public life and all these sorts of things. Are you comfortable that you have the mandate to be thinking that far ahead at this point?
Of course. I mean, as the leader of the country, I can't think in a very irresponsible and myopic way. I can't. I have to be broad in my outlook. I have to be planning ahead, because that's the role and responsibility that I have. I want to make it clear here that the motion of no confidence has its place. The government has an agenda for which it is responsible. If the 2 members who recently signed the document with 4 others had resigned their seat in Parliament, then for a moment I would feel uneasy, because we would have had to go to by-elections. And during that period of by-elections, if they were of no more on my side because they are no longer in the Parliament, then I think I would be having some problems of consideration.
But you've just said that they're not on your side anymore.
But they are not dead.
No, but you said they're not on your side.
They are not dead. They can, just as they changed their mind yesterday and voted and said that they will vote, so too they can change their mind to do anything. They are still alive. I don't know what motivated them to be on the other side. Suppose I can demotivate them.
Is there a part of you that thinks that maybe that might be a possibility, sir?
Suppose they can be demotivated.
So
I can increase my motivation beyond what they got.
Is that something you're prepared to try?
I'm prepared to do anything for stability in our country.
And finally, for now, Honorable Prime Minister,
yes,
you recently touched on, not in a lot of detail, this civil servants re-registration. Can you summarize for us, the reasoning behind this? It's the objective of it, and what really is involved, and what is, the objective. Why? What's the end result supposed to look like? So there's some sort of re-registration going on with civil servants, and I'm just trying to clarify what's going on. Apparently, there've been some sort of interviews that people have been going to, and they
I'm
are
not certain exactly what you speak to, but there might be 2 things happening at the same time. There is an exercise that is being conducted for the purpose of bringing into being, collecting data, and bringing into being the National Health Insurance Scheme. I don't know if that's what you're making reference to. But there's also an exercise that is being conducted by the head of the public service, where Mr. Newton is having meetings, ongoing meetings, with different sections of the public service.
That's the one I'm interested in learning a little bit more about.
I think what he's doing is basically bringing update information to the civil servants, informing them exactly what the modernization of the public service exercise is about. Of course, it will involve a number of different initiatives, reclassifying of positions and posts, looking at new ways and means of reward and compensation for public servants. You know, at the moment, we are driven mainly by academic performance, how many O-levels, CXC, CAPE, and so forth, degrees that you have. We are looking now at a new system where the guy who has experience and who may not have had the academic qualifications when he came into the system, but who has been a hard worker, has experience, is relied upon for deliverance and performance, that he should be given some form of compensation as well. These are the modern things that I believe the head of the public service is introducing to the public servants as he makes his rounds to meet them.
Is there any anticipation at all that this could lead to any sort of layoffs? Is the plan to restructure? I think what it is, and this is why people have been contacting the media, I think there's a concern that there's some sort of thing afoot to tidy things up, if you will.
No. That's propaganda. There's no attempt at laying off people. We don't do that here in this government. In the hardest of times, this government said we will not in any way allow our public servants to be laid off. We have reassigned persons to different areas where we believe that they are needed, moving them from areas where we believe they were being redundant. And that is exactly what we intend to do. Those who are of retirement age, those who we believe can now make it in retirement, they have been allowed to retire by His Excellency the Governor General. Those who are of retirement age and for various reasons, depending on where they are working, what service they have been provided, and whether we have trained people to carry on those services, they have been retained. But what we are doing now is, in fact, training people. As you know, the PEP program is on its way. That just yesterday I've been informed that over 2,000 people, and not all of them have been unemployed, over 2,000 people have made applications to become involved in the PEP. Because
how many appointments have been made?
So far, I have been told over 600 have been made, placements. Over 600 placements, I think, if I remember the figures, have been made. And this is because the government recognizes that there is going to be increased economic activity in the country very, very shortly. We are seeing the unfolding of the government development program, construction program, with the road networks that's been done. We are going to have 2 hotels, as I said before. In fact, next week, I think Thursday, you must have been invited, the Ross University is launching its redevelopment program. It's going to spend over $30 million in its redevelopment program at the Ross University campus here, and it will have a groundbreaking exercise next week, Thursday. We believe that within a matter of 2 weeks, one of the projects in the Half Moon Bay area that also would see the groundbreaking exercise. That's the golf residences and resort development. Not Koi, separate from Koi. Koi will roll out a few weeks after that, but for now, it's the other one that I had mentioned before. With what is happening as well, we have been told that the Southeast Peninsula, the Christopher Harbour development, continues on apace. What's the word I wanted to use? It is an ongoing project that continues to advance with quick pace. That's the word. And I say that because I was privy to a presentation that was given by the project manager who is here on the ground, Bill Lee, just last week I think it was. And he indicated that the sales have tremendously improved. In fact, the sales that they had anticipated for this year have already been met by February of this year. So I think we are seeing, even though I mentioned before that the Christopher Harbour may be involved in changing hands, that does not in any way at the moment affect the development of the project. So that is ongoing. I feel very, very positive that the Park Hyatt is going to roll out as well at the end of the second quarter of this year. So we're talking about the next few months. And so the PEP is really preparing our people in terms of acquiring skills and acquiring the best work ethics, being attached to different departments of government and into the private sector. And I want to thank the private sector for accommodating these young people, some of whom are fully qualified. But because of the situation, the private sector has not been able to absorb them. And so we have to find ways and means of bringing them into the public sector, although we had decided we will shy away from this initially.
Just a quick follow-up. In regards to Ross University, I've received some reports that the land on which they're building, they're expanding, that the land has been sold to Ross. Will be sold to Ross. Yes. So these are state lands. Are these part of the lands that were in the land swap, or is this separate and apart from that?
These were lands that we had leased to Ross University as pasture lands a few years ago. And then they got permission from us when they were under severe competition from the university in Grenada, because the university in Grenada was providing their students with first semester residencies on campus. A lot of the students were going to Grenada because Ross did not provide a similar facility. So they came to the government. That was Dr. Ross before he died, came to the government and requested that they be allowed to have residences built on portion of the land. And so we gave them permission. They are going to purchase, firstly, the portion of the land on which the buildings are standing, because those were still leased lands. Imagine that. They had built on leased lands. So we are going to tidy that up, making sure that they have title. And the rest of the lands, which were the pasture lands, those are the lands under consideration as well for sale to them.
What kind of overall acreage are we talking about? Roughly?
Boy, how much? And it could be 10 acres. I'm not certain. To be frank with you, I'm not certain.
Jason Davis from ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation. 2 quick questions. Can you give us an update on the Waste to Energy project? And secondly, what's your take on this Blazing Star movement?
My take? Yeah. Blazing Star is another political party. I don't like to comment on other political parties, especially when they are embryonic. They are still in the formative stage. They are not yet born, so to speak, still developing. So I won't comment on that. The Waste to Energy project, that really should be maybe a question directed more to the private sector people who are pursuing it. Government is not pursuing this. It is not a government project. It is a private sector project that government has become involved in the sense that it could be sited on government land close to what is the present, what we call over there, the landfill. And so government is involved in the sense that we have an understanding that the waste that is being disposed of and which normally would have been deposited into the government landfill would be taken by them. And once the feasibilities and the environmental impacts and so forth are done, government, I believe, will through, well, not even maybe government, I would say SCELEC would maybe would be negotiating with them to purchase the energy that would emanate from that particular facility. So government, I don't think at the moment is a partner. I don't think it's a PPP. I think it is an entirely private sector driven project, but government has been very kind and very facilitating, and government welcomes the opportunity to use the waste, the solid waste that we are generating in our country to be put to a disposal mechanism that will bring benefits to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.